Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK.com. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest segment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's our series of informal conversations with IT thought leaders from all over the business. Our interviewee today is Partha Narasimhan, and Partha is the CTO of Aruba, which is a very hot networking company and part of the Hewlett-Packard family. So Partha, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity to participate with you.
Yeah, good to meet you. And I certainly have a lot of respect for Aruba and for HP, for both HPs. And tell me a little bit about your background and at a high level what Aruba does, just in case any of our viewers isn't familiar.
Yeah, so Aruba, we started out in 2002. I've been with the company since the beginning, about 19 years now. Started out in 2002 primarily to bring mobility into the enterprise and Wi-Fi as the technology that will enable mobility for the enterprise, right? And since then, we've kind of expanded. We've always had a focus on security. We've been building our solutions right from that time with the notion of no implicit trust in any segment of the network. I mean, today, that goes by the name of zero trust. But we've always built with that philosophy in mind. Since the merger or acquisition by HPE in 2015, the way that merger worked, we took the old Aruba team and the old HP networking team, merged those two elements to make the new Aruba. And we've now expanded our portfolio to cover not just Wi-Fi and security, but security as applied to now switching and wide area network. And last year, we are fortunate to have the Silver Peak team join us. So it kind of covers the entire spectrum of Wi-Fi switching and wide area network with a layer of software that we've built to manage and add elements of machine learning and AI to help make network and security operations more efficient than it can otherwise.
Yeah, networking has become more and more important as time goes on. More and more and larger loads of data are being moved from place to place. And, the security vulnerabilities, just naturally could be anywhere in any of those connections. And Aruba has been very cognizant of all this and has been plugging those holes and providing that security for quite a while very successfully. Tell me about, Partha, how is, just at a real high level, how is artificial intelligence and business intelligence being used in networking for security purposes?
Right, so a few things in there, right? One, let's start with, if you create a mobility, a fabric that enables mobility, allows the user to do whatever they want, whenever and wherever, it drives participation. One, we want to build a solution where, internally we call it the invisible network, where end users can forget about the presence of the network and focus on the task that the network enables them to do, right? And so that requires a network to be always available, always high performing, and be secure in there, right? So security has always been paramount in everything that we've done so far and will continue to do so. What we've realized over time is network operations tends to be a lot more reactive. You wait for a problem to show up, you wait for a user to detect a problem, come back and report it, open a ticket, and then we all work on it, ultimately resolve the problem. But a few years ago, we recognized that there is a lot more information available in the network telemetry data that could allow us to be somewhat more proactive, right? And when I mean proactive, can I respond to a problem before it impacts an end user, before it impacts their productivity? And that's where, for about 6 or 7 years, we've been investing heavily in machine learning and AI technologies to tap into that network telemetry data and translate that raw data into insights that network operators can act upon. But this also translates over into the security arena, right? And this has become even more important when you think about the billions of IoT devices that people say are going to show up, but sometimes, customers tell us that they're already there on their network. And how do you know what's on your network, and and how it is behaving, as well as how those behaviors are changing as potential indicators of problems. Right? So it's not just users and their devices we have to focus on. It's also lots of these IoT devices that don't belong to any specific user, but are deployed in order to help business productivity and business profitability. But how do you now allow these devices to be deployed without altering the risk profile, right? Without, so that the network being that first point of contact, and we again leverage that telemetry data in order to provide visibility into not just how they are behaving right now, but how they could be behaving. And in turn now affect business productivity and profitability. Because ultimately, to us, IoT is about digitizing the physical world and translating those benefits to basically aid business profitability.
Yeah, and that leads right into a question I have about the edge and IoT with regarding Aruba. So, what is Aruba bringing to the table for edge computing that maybe wasn't there before that is needed? And the second part of that would be where's a trend you're seeing in this area? Because we're writing a lot about the edge. There's a lot, it's just a whole greenfield out there. I know that Aruba is near the leaders really in connecting all these devices, but what does Aruba bring to the table? Like you mentioned a little bit about it already, but can you go a little deeper into that?
Sure. So a year ago, we launched what we called Aruba Edge Services Platform, or ESP. It's a little bit of a play on words, because we believe that all the things that we've done for many years now does provide the infrastructure at the edge with a sixth sense. And how do you now, so what does that mean, right? Just technology, integrating technologies for the sake of technologies, yeah, it's one thing, but if we can translate that into customer benefit, that's where initially we started focusing on improving network operations and security operations. But there's also this notion that in order for us to, look at it, use cases that are coming up that we hear from customers, we also have to bring in a degree of security and a little bit of compute at the edge, because there's so much data that is already being generated at the edge and will continue to increase, that if the only model that we apply to this is just take it all the way back to a data center or the cloud, then the cost of transporting this data and getting it processed centrally is going to be so high that sometimes customers might be faced with a choice of, okay, I just want to leave the data on the floor. But if we can actually bring the processing capabilities closer to where the source of the data is, without necessarily altering the experience that customers have gotten used to with consuming services from the cloud, then it's a win-win for both of us. And so, but we have to do this in such a way that it's not just about connectivity, but also about security and processing of the data. How do you do this um, in such a way that it doesn't increase the cost, and yet we can translate the benefits, right? And we call this the edge to cloud journey, right? Whether it is connectivity in terms of wireless, wired, or the wide area network, or security. How do you extend security all the way from a device through the various network segments all the way into the cloud? Uh, this is the element of ESP, right? And how do you translate this so that when we talk about zero trust, there's always, or SASE, there's always an assumption that somehow the security of the edge doesn't matter because we could just do it all in the cloud, and that isn't necessarily true, right? And when I tell customers my sprinkler system is on the same Wi-Fi network as my laptop that I get my work done, how do you protect the laptop when it is at the edge? So we've actually completed that entire ecosystem of looking at our focus on security at the edge, and now with the wide area network, with the acquisition of Silver Peak, but now partners that enable cloud security components in there to stitch together the entire edge to cloud security framework, where again the the focus is on delivering a cloud-like experience, but with the understanding that the infrastructure at the edge is not going to go away. I can't virtualize an access point and move it to the cloud. So it is going to be at the edge. But at the same time, how do I now bring the cloud-like experience to the edge? And so when we mean edge to cloud, there are two ways to look at it. One is how do you connect the dots back from the edge all the way to the cloud, but also how do you bring a cloud-like experience to infrastructure at the edge?
Yeah, very good. Partha, we've got maybe 2 minutes left, so I'm to wrap it up. But I like the example of the sprinkler system being on the same network as your laptop, and I guess that means your sprinkler system has a security too, huh? So you gotta watch that. But that leads us right into the news that that Aruba HP just announced, or is going to be announcing here in mid-April. About the Ed Services platform and these new cross-portfolio edge-to-cloud security integrations. Now, those integrations, are those kind of like models or templates of some sort, or am I reading that incorrectly?
No, it is kind of looking at integration. So in such a way that it makes it easier for networks to be designed and yet make them more secure, and look at leveraging telemetry data to provide insights into, okay, what is going on in the network, right? Let's take an example. For many years, the VLAN has been a construct for applying policy. But essentially what that means is that topology and policy get very tightly coupled, and one cannot move faster without causing problems for the other. The other reason why it may have worked in the past is because network topology didn't change often, right? When you don't have mobility in the network, topology stays mostly constant. But the moment you insert mobility, it changes all the time. So we came up with a framework where you looked at identity, device types, and other elements of context to determine policy and decouple policy from topology. And what we did at the edge for Wi-Fi first, and then take it to switching, and now we're integrating with the Edge Connect portfolio that we acquired from Silverpeak, right? Where integrating with ClearPass Policy Manager, which is where we hold a lot of this context and define policies for the edge, can also now translate over to the WAN. And so that completes everything that we do at the edge on-prem, but now extending those integrations out to partners like Zscaler that provide cloud security, advanced cloud security functions in there in a very seamless manner allows you to now stitch the whole thing together without compromising any layer along the way.
Yeah. And what's one thing about Aruba. You play with just about everybody, don't you? I mean, you can work with almost any system, security, whatever. And that's what you have to be in this business. You have to be versatile, agile, and just be able to play in the sandbox with everybody. You just have to be able to do it. Otherwise, because every customer you have is going to be different. It's going to have different systems. You have to adapt to those systems, right?
Absolutely. The one comment I have, the world is a multi-vendor place, and customers have a choice in who they want to consume what products in any segment from, and we ultimately have to fit into what they already have,
right?
Other than go in and dictate that they should just throw everything away and replace it with something that we want to provide.
It's all about the customer experience, whether you're buying a network or a Wi-Fi system or a candy bar somewhere. You have to, it's got to be frictionless as much as possible. Partha Narasimhan, thank you so much for being our guest on eSpeaks today.
Chris, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you.
I have a feeling we can go deeper into some of these topics. Maybe we can get together again some other time and do that.
Absolutely, would love that opportunity too.
And for everybody following along to the very end here, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.